I don't know if y'all like fettuccine Alfredo, but I love it. And so that I'm going to make the Alfredo sauce first tonight. And get my glasses. And we're going to start off with a half a cup raw cashews. And I buy mine at Fresh Market because they're raw and they're expensive, but and they're also dirty, so I always rinse them before I use them. Half a cup of cashews, 2 cups of water, one tablespoon of unbleached flour, and 1 tablespoon of chicken style seasoning, a fourth of a teaspoon of onion powder, and a half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of dried basil, or a 1/4 cup chopped fresh basil, and a 1/4 cup of soy parmesan. Now, I didn't have enough of fresh basil at home. I had used it 2 or 3 times during the cooking show, and so I just put the dried basil. I'm putting all that in there. And this is some Parmesan cheese, vegan, that I made. And I wasn't real happy with it, but that's the way the recipe called for. It doesn't do Parmesan cheese justice. Anyway, I'm going to blend this up. And this makes a big noise. To blend it until all the cashews get blended till it's smooth. And I'm going to pour it back in this pitcher.
Can you buy soy parmesan?
You can. You can buy it. But you can do that instead of making it. But I just thought I'd try making it.
Yeah.
And so you cook this until it gets thick on a low heat, and I just stir it to prevent it from scorching, and it'll get thick. And then you put it over your pasta, and you can use it like that, just the pasta and the sauce. But I put a handful or 2 of spinach, and I saute usually shiitake mushrooms, and they're really good for you. And I can only find them at Fresh Market. They're very expensive. So tonight I just used regular button mushrooms and the portobello mushrooms, the baby bellas, to go in this. And I saute the mushrooms with 2 or 3 cloves of garlic and just add that to it. And this is the sauce that's been thickened, and it's warm, and I just pour it over it. It's kind of green looking. It's not white, but I think that's the basil in it. And just stir it up. And this you would do on the stove in a big skillet, deep skillet or pot, and until the spinach gets wilted. And just mix it all up, and that's that. Anyway, it's really good, or I like it. Yes, yes, because the pasta, you don't rinse your pasta or anything, and it will just absorb all that liquid. So you just serve it immediately after you make it. And I use the penne, and tonight I'm using the whole grain. And I prefer the white, but I know the whole grain is healthier, and my husband likes it, so I do it for him. And anyway, it's really good. And the next thing I'm going to make is a cheese sauce for macaroni and cheese, and I love macaroni and cheese. And it also calls for a 3/4 cup of cashews. And it calls for a cup of water. Three tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And it's a half a cup of pimentos, and you don't drain them, you just put the whole thing in. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And a teaspoon of dill weed. And I guess I left that at home. I don't see it. No, here it is. It's 1 teaspoon of dill weed, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 1½ teaspoons of sea salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. I didn't think I'd like the dill in it, but the dill, you can't even taste it once it's blended up. And again, we're going to turn this on. That's a good way to break my thing. And then again, you put this in a boiler and you stir it until it gets really thick. And then you pour it over your pasta. And there again, you've got to make sure you serve it as soon as you make it, because it will clump up and absorb all the sauce. And that's it.
It's healthy, it's cheap, we make a bunch of it, and that's all we love to do. We do it like once, probably, I bet most people probably once a week, at least once every other week. I would dare to say once a week. This is called Haystacks. And the reason why it's called Haystacks is because you just pile and pile and pile and pile and pile it until you get to the top. And basically it's the taco salad, but the reason why, I don't know, I've never been able to make a small one or a small burrito, so it just gets big. So we start out with our corn chips. This is great for parties. Oh, and I can put my gloves on. Great for parties and great for teenagers, that's for sure. I did these for one of my child's 16th birthday party. So And everybody was so full they couldn't eat dessert, couldn't eat the cake or anything, and all I made was this. So, the corn chips are something that you probably want to learn to buy organic, because corn is very highly adulterated, and they use corn in everything, and they really mess with it, GMOs and things. So you really want to, it would be good to get organic, anything to do with corn. We just kind of crush them up a little bit. And I was going to get one of my kids to come up here, but they wouldn't do this with me. They said they had homework, but I think they're just shy. You want to?
As long as you don't move around too much. For the
The cameraman?
y'all haven't seen me too much, but I am one of her.
Yay. Okay, next we're going to do the rice. You can just put the rice on there. Not all of it. So next we're putting the rice, and normally I would use brown rice. This is parboiled rice, but anytime you're doing your grains, you want to use your whole grain. You want to do whole grain, your brown rice, your whole grain pasta, your whole wheat bread, and the reason is, okay, that's good. And the reason is because the white is stripped down, and it basically just turns to sugar in your system. It's starch, and you want the whole grain. It's a lot healthier. Whenever this son of mine was younger, he had ADHD really bad, and whenever we went to a nutritionist, that's the first thing he said: you have got to get rid of all white refined. Anything that's white and refined is really bad for focus and for your brain and all that kind of stuff. And he couldn't focus; he was very hyperactive. And so they said, no, just do the whole grain, none of the white, and no sugars and stuff like that. And so that's what we did. And one thing, and I didn't do this, but one thing you can do to get used to incorporating the brown rice and the brown pasta is to mix the two. Take your white and your brown, mix it. Take your white pasta, wheat pasta, and mix it. And that way you kind of get your taste buds used to it. The first time I ever did whole grain pasta, I was like, oh, this is different. It was a lot denser and tougher, and the taste was different. And another thing I learned is that you salt it really well. I learned that since then, and when you're boiling it. But the kids and my husband were like, no, it's fine. I'm like, you're kidding me. This is different. But it only took me about 3 times, and then it just tasted normal to me, so it didn't take very long. But that's something you can do, is just to incorporate it into, mix the two together until you get used to it. All right, so we got our rice, and next we're going to do beans. And I have, Mike can do most of all of this. We're going to make a really big one. I've got black beans and kidney beans in here. And I put them on the stove and put garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, and chili powder. And I think that's all. I'm trying to think. And salt. So, I love black beans, and you can do pinto beans, and you can even blend them up in your blender and make, put the refried, the blended. And sometimes it's good to do half blended and half whole, and that's really good. Put some on this outer ring too. All right, and then what we have left here, we have, what would be next? I try to alternate the colors, so you don't have like red on red or green on green, so I'm trying to think what would be next. We'll do our lettuce next. And you try to always go with like the darker lettuce, like the romaine. The darker the leaf, the healthier. You could do spinach, it's really good. This is romaine. The iceberg lettuce that you're probably used to has absolutely no nutrition in it whatsoever. It has like 5 calories, so there's nothing in it. It's very, just the darker the better. And this romaine is very close to iceberg, but you see the darker leaves in there. And we grow this in our garden. It grows pretty good. And, like I said, spinach is good on there. There's green leaf lettuce, red leaf lettuce. Get used to it. There's so much variety out there. We really do not do that much variety, because we just do the same thing. But there's a lot of variety out there. Get used to doing something different. It's really fun. Now we're going to put some, here, well, I got gloves, I'll do this. Well, I like using my hands, I've got spoons. But anyway, I've got some onions here, and you could do red onions as well. Just gonna do a little bit of that. And then what else do we have? Some tomatoes. So beautiful, all these colors, and it's all fresh, you know, and it's a really great. Yes, yeah, that's our favorite, I know. And you could roll it up into, instead of putting it over the taco shells, you could roll it up into burrito, you know, take this and put it in the burrito, roll that up. You could do that, you could take it for lunch. And if you just keep everything separated in your refrigerator, you can just make, you know, a plate when you want it, like for lunch or whatever. And that's the thing to learn about using like raw food and for salads and things. If you keep, when you get home, if you go ahead and chop them up and keep them in these separate containers, they won't go bad as fast. If you go ahead and mix this all together, they're going to go bad quicker. That's also another thing for whenever you buy your produce and you bring it home, your bananas, everything, keep everything kind of spread out and away from each other if you want them to last longer. If you want them to, if they're not ripe enough and you want them to go ahead and ripen, then put them close together because they emit these gases and those gases help them ripen each other really fast. I'm trying to think of the name of the gas, but I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's something like, that's what I was trying to say, ethylene, yeah, I think that's right. Okay, now we have our olives. And olives, I'll tell y'all, something that was really hard for us to get over when we first went vegetarian, in August will be 3 years. And when we first went vegetarian, we did everything except for cheese. That was the one thing, you know, that is the #1 addictive food. You would think it's chocolate, but next to chocolate is cheese because it's a fat and we really crave that fat. And so after about 8 months, we went ahead and stopped with the cheese. And the way that I did that, one thing that really helped me is not so much finding a cheese substitute exactly, because it's not cheese, but the olives and the guacamole, the avocados, they have the good fat, and it's the fat, and it just satisfied my craving for the cheese because it satisfied my craving for the fat. And this was good fat, so, you know, it's healthy. I can't even tell you all the things avocados are good for. I did it at the last cooking school, but it's good for a lot of things. And so you're getting, avocado is one of those super foods because it has got the highest of all fruits, because it is a fruit, of everything. And so it's really, really good for you, and it does satisfy that craving for cheese. I could never imagine having a bowl of chili, which is one of my favorite foods, with cheese on it, or a taco or a burrito without cheese. And so, or, you know, pizza, I guess even, but especially the Mexican stuff. But when I started eating the avocado on it and then the black olives, I was just like, man, this did it for me. It did the fix. I didn't have the craving for cheese. So that's how I got over the cheese fix. Did you want to say something?
Oh, well, I was going to say that, you know, it's one thing to hear it from her, but, like, that's become one of my new favorite foods. You know, it's green, and everybody's like, the green stuff, you know. I don't know, at least as kids, and, like, you know, all my peers would make fun of me for that kind of thing. But, oh my gosh, I can't, yeah, she brought up many of the different things we put it in. I'm like, wow, yeah, that's right, we put it in, like, a lot of stuff. And I eat it sometimes even just on bread. I don't know, I just like it. She puts lemon in this, right, Mom?
Yes, you put,
yeah, she has her own little recipe.
basically, put this in the food processor, and I just, to keep it simple, you can do all kinds of things, but I just put lemon juice and salt. It's just easy, it's fast. You can put garlic powder, onion powder, you can put cayenne pepper, you can put black pepper, you can put lime in it. It's really good too, and sometimes I do that and make it extra special. It's really good flavor. And then you can even put like tomato, you could blend up tomatoes in it, and that just gives it a really awesome, to really get it a little fancy. Now we got more tomatoes, but this is some fresh homemade salsa that I made this afternoon, and I just put it in the food processor, some bell peppers, some onions, some tomatoes, a can of tomato sauce, and then like some lemon juice, cilantro, lime juice, salt, and I'm going to just pour this on there, and I'm going to pour some guacamole, and then I've got some jalapenos, and some sour cream that Carrie made back there. I think it's the cilantro sour cream. We are just making a huge mountain. And whenever we went to the Lucedale cooking school, she said, we make those and we call them Mexican Mountain. I said, okay, we have a new name, Mexican Mountain. So, this is just unbelievably huge. I've never made one this big before. Okay, we're just gonna put that on there and you can kind of spread that out how you want. This is like mega. Okay, 2 more things here. I mean, you just cannot, you really cannot go wrong having this. I know there's different things people might like better. And I think we're gonna have all this stuff on the table so that you can make it your own way, because some people might not want jalapenos, some people might not want onions. But if you want everything, get this big bad boy right here.
Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking of, is that this is one of the easiest meals.
Kids can do this.
Yeah, and as I was thinking about, I was like, I'm 21. I'm starting to kind of think of some of the things I need to do whenever, like cooking, whenever I finally get out of the house. This is a bachelor meal, man.
That's for sure.
I mean, if a bachelor can make it, anybody can make it, because you just pile all that stuff on there. And one of the things that Mom said about it making a lot, even I've seen that. I'm like, we serve it at parties and stuff. It's one thing that you can kind of reliably to have that's kind of cheap. I mean,
Cheap.
You usually have this kind of stuff on hand, and then you just pile it all together. And for some reason, it's the one thing that, if I ever had to complain about like not having enough or something, you can always go back for seconds on this.
And yeah, what I was going to say about being, for kids, if you already have all this stuff cut up and put in the containers, it makes it super easy. I mean, for anybody. So that's a good thing to go ahead and do. So you do need to learn how to cut.
Excuse me, will we have the recipe for that?
It is in the cookbook. I don't know what page it's on, but
Okay.
basically you don't even really need a recipe. And I don't know if everything that she put on there is the same thing I put on here, but it's
Okay.
basically the same idea. Yeah. All right. Thank y'all.